Today on Ham Radio Q&A, we're going to take a look at River Coils' latest accessory, the You Asked For It kit. Well, what does it do? We're going to get loaded and find out. Hi, I'm Michael, KB9VBR, your host for Ham Radio Q&A. I'm on a mission to inspire and educate the amateur radio community, so if this is your first time watching, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Well, winter's just around the corner, so I set my River Coils Silver Bullet 1000 up in the backyard. You know, the leaves are all gone from the trees now, and pretty soon this whole area is going to be covered with snow. So what better spot than to stick a vertical antenna in my backyard? No one's really going to bother it until, say, March or April of next year, and I can just shovel a little path out to the antenna and go out here and change frequencies or change bands when I want to. I got the antenna mounted on a steel fence post. It may look like it's a little bit high in the air, but really this works pretty well because the snow is going to come up about a foot or so, so it'll keep the antenna itself out of the snow drifts. I got 3 ground radios running out along the backyard for the counterpoise, and they'll be buried with the snow before you know it. And then about 50 feet of RG8X that runs into the house and down to the shack. I really like the variety that this antenna gives me. You know, since I do a lot more HF operations from the shack in the winter months, I can switch between the best signal that I'm getting between the vertical antenna and my G5RV wire antenna that's stretched over the house and yard. But really the purpose of this video is to talk about a new product from River Coils, and it's their extension rod kit. You know, recently I was at the Fox Cities Amateur Radio Club Swap Fest in Appleton, Wisconsin, and I had an opportunity to chat with the guys at River Coils. They're coming out with a new accessory for their coil called the UAFI, or the You Asked For It kit. The UAFI is a pair of extension rods. They're what they do is they convert your base-loaded antenna into a center-loaded antenna. The rods themselves are about 24 inches long each. They're made out of aluminum. They've got threaded ends with 3/8 by 24 threads. There's some couplers and jam mounts on one end. And by adding these rods, you can move the coil up about 4 feet from the base. Then that's going to do a couple of things for you. First off, it's going to increase your bandwidth. But more importantly, it also increases the overall efficiency, as center loading a vertical antenna does a couple of things. It increases the radiation resistance and it reduces the capacitance reactance at the feed point. Those are some pretty big words. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these rods in, and we'll put the antenna up on the meter, check it out, and maybe do a test, and you can kind of see what it's doing. Now the first thing I'm going to do here before I get started is because these rods are aluminum, these nuts and the base of the antenna is steel, you're going to run into a little bit of a problem using these dissimilar metals. So you might, outside here, you're going to get a little bit of corrosion potentially. It might be tough to get this whole thing taken apart. So what I recommend doing is to liberally coat the threads with this product, Ox-Gard. It's an antioxidant compound. Also, it works great as an anti-seize compound. This is by Garber-Bedner. Ideal also makes a product called Anolox, does the same thing, but basically spread that all over the threads of the antenna, and then you're not going to run into any of those issues with seizing or corrosion, especially if you're going to leave this out over the winter months. One thing I think I need to point out here is that this antenna is a little bit tippy. I think the main reason is due to the steel fence post I'm using. It's not the most rugged support out there, so if I had something just a little bit more substantial, probably shouldn't have much of a problem supporting this, but it is definitely swaying in the wind. I think if I was gonna do the center load with these extension rods, I would probably guide this down or get it lower to begin with. If you use the Wolf River's base, I don't think this is going to be much of an issue. A lot of the problems I think are coming from the fence post here that I'm using as a support, not so much the aluminum extension rods themselves. Now that we're back inside, what I did is I ran a few tests with the antenna using the Rig Expert, and we're going to just load it into the computer and take a look at what the scans look like. First off, what I have here is a scan. This is bottom feeding the Wolf River coil, and I was able to get the SWR down to 1.26 to 1, which isn't too bad. And let's see, this is at 7200, so our 2-to-1 SWR is at 7075 and 7350. So that pretty much covers the entire 40-meter band, which isn't so bad. Next, I'm going to pull up a scan of the center loaded coil. This is with the rods in place, and you'll notice at 7200 kilohertz here, 40-meter band, your SWR rises to 2.79 to 1, and you can see it peaks down to about 69, 62. Because we're increasing the length of the antenna is getting longer, so our SWR is going down lower in the band. So in order to compensate for that, you're going to have to retune the antenna. So we just moved the collar up. Approximately 2 clicks was all it took for the 40-meter band. So if I pull up a scan, and I peaked it at 7200. It peaked at about 1.6 to 1. I could have twiddled the dial or the collar a little bit and gotten it down a little bit lower, but I didn't really get her any better than about 1.5 to 1, 1.6 to 1, which is actually perfectly fine. The radio had no problem with an SWR as such. If we combine the two, if I take the first scan and overlay it, you'll notice that you do get a lot more bandwidth center loading the coil. So at 2-to-1, if I find it here, 2-to-1, we're at about 7062 and about 7350 again. So just a little bit flatter than the bottom loaded coil is. Talk about the efficiencies. The green line here is our X, and let's see, bottom, and the center. So reactance is definitely a little bit better with the center loaded one than the bottom. And R is the resistance, bottom, and that's the center, the bottom, and the center. So our resistance is just a little bit higher because the SWR was granted a little bit higher, but reactance looks beautiful for the center loaded coil, and that's where our efficiencies really come into play. Previous to this, I did do an on-air test, so I'm going to cut away to that, and then we'll just finish up with my thoughts on the Wolf River Coils. You asked for it, rod extenders.
7 Bravo Delta Golf.
Okay, I'm getting a 7 to 9 on the wire.
Go ahead. Kilo Charlie 2 Bravo Papa Papa.
I'm getting a 5 to a 7 on the vertical. Kilo Bravo 9er Victor Bravo Romeo.
Victor Bravo Romeo station, go ahead.
This is Kilo Bravo 9er Victor Bravo Romeo, your 5-9 or 5-7 into Wisconsin, Whiskey, India.
Thank you for the 5-7 into Wisconsin. You are 5-9 into Indiana. Thanks for the call.
Roger, Roger. Thanks for the contact. Well, that's it for my review of Wolf River Coils. You asked for it, UAFI rod extenders. These are the two 24-inch extenders that you get for the Wolf River Coils. Works with the Silver Bullet 500 and the Silver Bullet 1000, of course. Some of their take it along kits include the rods as a standard, so you can either get a kit with everything in it, or you can purchase just the rods itself if you want to turn your bottom-loaded Wolf River coil into a center-loaded antenna. What do I think about them? I think they work well, very well. Had no problem getting on the air with them. I think the only downside I had was with my particular installation, because I had the coil mounted on that steel fence post. There was a bit of tip and sway there, and I don't think that would be present if I was using one of the Wolf River bases. The Wolf River bases are a little bit more, I'm not going to say sturdy, but they're not going to have that flex in there like that 3 or 4 foot of fence post that I had stuck into the ground. But that's really not me. But that's me and not the rods themselves. So otherwise, I think they were a really nice addition to the Wolf River lineup. I probably won't be running them this winter though, just because the stability, using them out there, and I got to get the ladder to make the coil adjustments. So we'll leave them off for the winter time, but come up this spring and summer, when I get back on the air out in the field, we'll probably see these rods coming out again. Otherwise, I think they're a great addition to the Wolf River coil line of products. And with that, if you have any questions or comments about the Wolf River Coil Silver Bullet 1000 or their You Asked For It rod extenders, I'd love to hear them. I'll answer them best I can. We'll keep that conversation going down in the comments below, so feel free to leave a comment or a question about these items. And for more articles and information, you can always check out my blog at www.jpole-antenna.com. Your support of this channel drives the production of future videos, so if you like this, give me that big thumbs up. Share this video with your friends, and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. I mean, if you've watched this far, why haven't you subscribed? So with that, I'm Michael, KB9 VBR. Have a great day, and 73.